Hello, Belize.
Hi, Sam.
What are we watching?
We are watching What Men Want.
Belize, I really liked this movie.
Wow, I wasn't expecting you to say that, honestly. I wasn't sure.
Really?
Because you just didn't text me, you didn't say anything. So I was like, oh no, did you not? But
No,
okay, yeah. What, like, anything specifically or just like in general?
I watched it with my grandma, and we were just kind of hanging out watching it together, and the whole time we were laughing. And when it ended, we both turned to each other and we watched the credits because we wanted to like see who was in it, and that never happens. And we both agreed, we were like, this was like a fun movie. Like you don't have to use your brain, but it's not like dumb fun. It was just fun and comedic, and all the characters were different. And like Ali was a badass feminist without being like annoying, if that makes any sense. Because I feel like some people who try to make like a female based like women empowerment movie, like they just push so hard to like be politically correct, that they, or like say the word bad bitch all the time, that they actually lose the female audience. At least for me, like I can tell when I'm hearing dialogue that's been written by a man that's like trying to get with the girls. And this one, like, it was directed by a man, but it felt so like cool and honest. And I loved Ali and I loved her backstory. I was invested.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. It's so easy. I like looked it up later on because I was curious. From what I remember seeing, it's five screenwriters. Four of them were male, and one was female. Um, but yeah, no, I think it's really fun. I've seen it a few times now. I can't remember if like the first time was on a plane or whatever, but I was always excited to like see the concept of it. And I think they do a really fun job with it. I watched it with my roommate as well. She really liked it. I think it's like that kind of movie, like just like a group movie for sure.
Wait, so tell me about you. Like, why did you pick this? Like, why? Because when we were picking films for this month, this is one of the first things that popped into your head.
Yeah, because this was definitely like a most recent one I've seen, majority black cast, which is what we're trying to do, and also it's definitely got romance in it, and it just like kind of talks overall about like the dynamic between men and women in general as well and stuff like that. Like it's a commentary whether or not like it always comes across that way because of all the humor. So I just thought it was fun, and I really liked the yeah, I liked this even though like the romance wasn't front and center, it was still a big part to it. So I really like to see the way that they had that woven in with the rest of it. But yeah.
It's so funny you say it wasn't front and center, because for me, I felt like it was like a big bulk of the movie. Like was but the thing that I liked about it, it wasn't about her getting Will. It was just like she was learning about men and the truth of men, and like her friends' relationships and her coworkers and her assistant. And it would just happen to be beautiful that Will was the type of man that we would want men to be. And I liked that Joe Dalla and his son's relationship and their love, for me, was the bulk of the love story. It's like this dad is eccentric and crazy, but he really does love his son, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I knew more about like the actual basketball or like sports related stuff because there were a lot of cameos in this movie of like very famous players. And from what one of my roommates told me, they didn't watch the whole thing, but from what they told me, the dad specifically like is based off an actual person who like I don't know the name of him, but they like literally like took their son. They were like, my children are gonna play in Poland, and then just kind of like went to Poland and moved away from the U.S. like during I guess draft pick or something like that. But I don't know the world of sports at all, so I'm like I know that like he like because he was in the other room, but he heard certain names being said and like ran out into the living room to go see like he's like I heard so many big names at sea. I was like yes, these are not fake. I did not realize. Like,
See, watching this movie made me find out that my grandma is a huge sports buff. She knew everyone. She knows who they're playing for, when they got drafted, everything. I'm like, the fuck, Rebecca? Like, what? She knows everything about basketball, football, soccer. Soccer's her ish, the Olympics. And I just was like, these aren't fake people. Like, and like also Mark Huber. I thought there was so many fun cameos in general. But also, I want to ask you, You never saw the original version of this, right?
No, and I really want to. Have you seen it?
I've seen it. I saw it when it came out when I was younger. And it's basically the same concept, except it's Mel Gibson. I need to double check that, but I do believe it is. And it's what women want. And basically, the concept is like he's a ladies' man and like he's like a womanizer, but he can't get intimate with women because he's such a freaking womanizer. And so basically, like he's cursed to like hear the thoughts of women and he like becomes a better person. And so the reason why I bring that up is I liked the way they flipped it here. They made it all about her journey to being partner at this company. And it just happened to be that the will thing was like an extension of that, of like, you have a hard time connecting with men. She was raised by a man, she lives in a world of men, she works in a world of men. I liked it that when she went to the office and they're like sitting down, she's sitting at the table, and let me finish the sentence before you're like, Samantha, she's sitting at the table and they're like locker room talking, and I hate that phrase, but they are like, that's the only way I can describe it. Like they're talking like filthy about like him fucking a girl the night before and like not remembering her name. And I'm happy that when she sat down, they didn't like go, oh, they just kind of were like, oh, let's just not talk about it. You know what I mean? Let's just move on. Because they were being respectful and polite, but they weren't completely ostracizing her. And that to me told me from the very beginning, it's like, okay, I see this world. She's the only woman and she's the only female agent at this entire company, but they respect her. They see her. They know she's a fucking gangster when it comes to like getting people to be in their agency, but she's still a woman. She's still a woman. So there's like, so it's not like a full degree away. And I liked the fact that like I kept thinking to myself it was going to be Nick, the CEO, that was voting against her. But in truth, he wasn't. She's still a woman and he still has prejudice against her because of that. And he still called her his twofer. But when she was in his thoughts, I'm really happy that that wasn't the big reveal, that this like boss that's like saying stuff to her face, like, oh, I don't know who's doing that, wasn't him. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't know. It was a very like 2020 way of going about the female executive, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's really interesting because like the concept alone of just like reading men's thoughts and that being like her way of like getting a romance is a story of its own. And this kind of has like both that going on with her internal conflict, if not more so, that she has more of an internal conflicts throughout before it. And I think that really works because she's already emerged in this world. Like she doesn't come starting, like she's not the full fish out of water, just started at an agency, working her way up. Like, no, she's been here, like you said, raised by a man, has is surrounded by men, can't really connect with like her female friends as much. And she's basically just like early on throughout it acting the way that she perceives men to act and that she perceives men would want her to act for her to be taken seriously. The way she has sex, the way she talks to the other agents, like anything she does is the way that like she perceives men to act, and so that's how she's acting. And it's really interesting to me that like that's all like her like analyzing the behavior and the psychology, but then she's like not doing all of it, just like the most toxic traits basically that men embody to her, and then that's what she's copying. So yeah.
And it's funny that you say that because that's the stuff that men are like, what the fuck? Because when we get inside the brains, that's why I'm actually kind of happy that there's so many guys on the writing team. Um, because when we get inside the brains of men, there were only like a handful that were like disgusting. Like obviously the one comment of the old man when she's walking down the street and he's like, oh, I wish I bagged her. I was like, oh my God. And then like the fiancés of her friends. But in the office, they're all like, one of them is like, I hate my smile, I hate the way I look, I hate this, I hate that. The other one is like, if in his head, he's like, no, if we were talking about you, we would call you a dick. If you were a guy, we'd call you a dick. And it's not that like it's because she's a woman that he's saying like, oh, fuck you for like showing me up inside the meeting. He was just like, why didn't you bring us into it? Why didn't you make it more of an us thing? Why didn't you save us rather than you going for the deal? That's what pissed him off. And I realized in the retrospect, like when she went to the poker night, inside the brains of all those guys at the poker night, no one was like, this fucking bitch. No, like Joe Dalla liked that she was so like aggressive you know, that she was like so like a hustler. He was like, okay, I like this. And all the guys were thinking the same way. They liked that because that's how they act. But when the push came to shove at that moment, when the boss was like, please don't take his money, that was for me like the big lesson of like, you don't always have to win. You can kill him with kindness. You can be at the like you didn't win the poker game, but you won the meeting. And like caring about her clients is what makes them want her. And so when she started acting like the what she thought men would want, so like at the magazine cover shoot at the beginning, when she's telling her female client, like that really famous women's, I don't know her name, when she told her like, would you split center? And the woman was just like, I didn't even hear good at math. That was your moment to be an agent and defend her. And when she did defend her, I respected it, you know?
Yeah, I love that moment. I think that's like it's such a fun moment that's not like too yeah, I like you said, it's not like pushing it too much, it's not too on the nose. It's just like she's like, in what world am I sharing this with like the flavor of the month? And I was like, yeah, that's completely fair. Like he didn't do anything right now. Why would he be on the cover with her? And I thought it was funny that like not funny, but I thought it was really interesting that as soon as she joined the bachelor party, like became about her, like the bachelor party, like they were all like, "Oh, you didn't get agent, did you?" And then one of them literally was like, "I'm gonna take a lift," like when they were literally trying to leave. And I realized too that once she stopped, how long the bachelorette party went, and I was like, were you guys planning on just ending it there? Like when you literally had a whole night planned because of how much she was gonna like throw off the energy and how, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I feel like I felt surprised that they were all even friends for a second because of how off that felt. And I'm like, I'm assuming it's just because she doesn't always bring her drama, but she brings it often enough that like when she does, they know what to expect. Um,
It's also like, I bet you, I think it's also like they've been friends since probably like college or something, or since like childhood. And so like when you grow up with people or like you're that long with people, you can't cut them off as easily. But I'm with you. When she showed up, she makes everything about her. Everything. Even sex is about her. And that's the part that people are like, no, we don't want you to act like a man. We don't want you to act like a woman. We want you just to be present in the current moment. We love the way that you are. We love how fucking fierce you are. But you have to start caring about other people too. And I felt like that was like the overall like problem.
it's really and going back to what you said earlier, you said there's like a lot of cameos in general. They have a lot of fun like comedic cameos, like you said, which those were the ones that I recognized because I didn't recognize the sports ones. And I feel like that was the fun of it too. Like her assistant kept pointing out that like, you know, I mean, his thoughts were the most like proof of how selfish she was. I don't know the character's name here, but the guy who plays Schmidt in New Girl, that's why I really liked his role. I like that character overall, especially when he like joins her and like leaves with her and everything like that, because he has no reason to directly. You know what I mean? Like they're taking a big risk by exiting the agency, and I really respected him in that moment for going for it because he believes in her and believes in what they can do together, sort of thing. But like he didn't have like a job at risk there. He was already partner. He was already like, you know, he's stable. So I loved that he did that with her because you would think that it would be more likely someone who's like also not being seen or heard at the agency that would go with her.
Am I incorrect? Did they ever point out who was voting against her?
I can't remember if they did or not. I'm I kind of assumed it was the guy who like the traitor who like leaves at one point and then comes back on probation.
I didn't think about him. This is funny. I like the fact that they kind of left it like it didn't matter who it was. It could have been anyone because you're not a team player. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like this one particular guy doesn't want you to succeed. It's like in general. Because I like the fact that at the beginning of the film, they're all like, Ali, what's up? And like they're like, Ali, you deserve this. You should be partner. You're incredible. You're amazing. Whatever the fuck. And then at the end, when she finally gets it, they give her that standing ovation. And I'm so happy that she left because she was his twofer. Is she an incredible agent? Yes. But the fact of the matter is that man looked at you like a twofer, and that's not okay.
I literally wrote down, I didn't even make a comment on it specifically, but I really loved her relationship with her dad and the way that that was depicted when they went out and like when they boxed together and then they went to dinner together. I was really surprised that she like openly in front of him like was gonna go pick up a man. You know what I mean? Where she's like, I'll catch up with you. You go home. I was like, wow, he's so bold, but I love it. Like I love that that's your relationship with him.
I think what I really liked about this movie is that it gave you everything you needed with visual and just like connection between characters and not having to like spoon feed you. But the only time that you find out about what happened to her mom is when the dad literally says, like, to the little boy Ben, like, you know, Ali grew up without a mom too. And then in his head, he's like, I miss that woman every day. But he's a good father. Like he's a good father. You can tell by the way he raised his daughter and the way that like she just gives him everything that's inside of her. And I like the fact that we didn't really need to hear the dad's thoughts very much because you can tell he's honest with her. I loved that so deeply.
I love that point. I didn't think of it that way, but I love that. The way she sleeps with Will the first time, I think they go a little too far in how they do it. I don't know why it felt like that this time. Like the last couple times I watched it, it didn't honestly, but this time I like it just I don't know if it was I saw an extended version or what happened, but it was just like it goes on for like a minute or like a minute too long, I'd say.
I totally see where you're coming from. I do think there's a difference between consent and um, communication. I think they were consensually in bed together. I didn't feel like anything was off there. I thought that just physically they were not communicating. And so they were having like two separate evenings. And I felt very connected to that in a way. Cause like I've seen in films, TV, books, my own life, when you have a partner in bed and like one person is clearly just not communicating their needs to the other or is just not listening to their needs. But I don't think it's I think if we start pinning everything into the realm of that's not consensual, then we're starting to censor things just too liberally. That was not what I took away from that evening. I felt it was one of those scenes in a movie that maybe makes you uncomfortable, but it happens. A scene in a movie where the man is like thrusting against a woman and the woman just kind of laying there, like waiting for it to be over, but the roles were reversed and they were trying to make it more funny rather than like him like, okay, are we done yet? But I didn't think it was an issue on consensual on the consensual nature of their sex. I thought it was more just the fact that like she's clearly just trying to get off and it doesn't care about his pleasure.
I agree with you. I just think that it could have been edited a bit shorter.
I
It
agree with
yeah, it doesn't come across to me as like unconsensual. It just comes across to me as I'm like, why are we staying on this moment so long?
don't want to censor media so incredibly deeply that if it's inappropriate for like the conservative audience and that's also inappropriate for like the PC audience, then where is the audience in between? I like gray. I like wiggle room where I can see my own self in it, or maybe I don't. If that's the case, then it felt like love by then that shouldn't exist. You know what I'm trying to say? Because someone could watch that and be like, oh well, no repercussions come from that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes. But again, I'm always just more skeptical when something is put in a comedy. It's a very different genre. So that's what I'm like it's I don't think it's that film should be made that show this. I don't think I just think that like different genres have different guidelines and different ways that they should be depicting certain things. It felt like Love was not a comedy. And I don't again, like I don't have a problem with this. I don't have but the reason I want to talk about it is because it's one of those things where it's like we talk about it for different movies, for different scenes. And it's just interesting to me whether or not it's problematic. I always want to comment on it and talk about it because different movies do it different ways. And it's interesting to me to analyze how they do it and whether or not like when I personally make stuff, whether or not I'm going to what I think it adds to the movie or not. The reason why I'm pointing I think the second time does it great. When they're having sex consensually and sharing in the second time, it cuts to the end really fast and skips over the actual sex. So why, when it's uncomfortable and all about her and her riding him, is it so much longer that it just like doesn't cut to her getting off of him and being like and like snoring and like being done. So that's, I would just love the editing to parallel, and I feel like that would still get the same message across to me. I'd still get it and then move on. I'm not saying I was uncomfortable in a way where I'm like, I have to turn this on. No. Then
Okay.
that was Holiday. Holiday did do that to me.
Holiday
That
was me
one,
too.
yeah, I'm like, I actually did turn it off the first time I watched it because of that one. But no, it's not like that. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I just think it's always worth discussing because like unfortunately, 8 times out of 10 for movies, for comedic movies at least, it's done wrong.
Can I,
Um,
can I validate you right now? No, here's the thing. Okay, we live in a society right now where everything is either black or white. You either are like 100% PC culture, like, oh fuck, what do I say? Oh, is that the right term? Or you're the complete opposite where you start like getting irritated by the other and you're like, no, I have these values, I have this, I don't like people censoring my values, blah, blah, blah. And it's gotten so toxic in these two realms of thought that people are so afraid to share their thoughts with the audience, or people are so afraid to get canceled, or people are so afraid, like, damn it, is something I did 20 years ago going to surface and ruin me? I love when we talk in this space about scenes and we dissect scenes and how it worked for us, how they could have been done better, how they could have been kept or moved or changed. Because you and I are having a conversation that is so fearsomely scary to have with strangers. And so I love when situations arise that we either A, come to a consensus on, or B, we find like, oh wow, I didn't see it like that, because you and I carry like the backpacks of our past with us everywhere we go. And so this particular scene, I love that we're discussing it. I think we should discuss it in every single fucking scene ever. And when we get to movies like It Felt Like Love, and we get to movies like Call Me by Your Name, whatever the hell, we're going to talk about different versions of these scenes. And so I love when this comes up because we get to have like this controlled environment of a discussion that people don't get to have on the internet. And so now there's two different perspectives on one thing that people can dissect and have and speak of. You know what I mean? I think we're both very respectful, like mutually respectful people. I'm gonna agree with you on the fact that the edit for the first should have been way freaking shorter. I was just kind of like, okay. I understood they were deriving a lot of comedy from it, and I liked how like fast they cut in the second one. But give me like 2 seconds of the first second just so I understand like why she's bad in bed, and then like that's it. I don't need to have the whole kit and caboodle. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I was watching the extended cut.
exactly, and that's what I guess that's what I was trying to like. That's what it is. Because I'm like, I don't want movies to stop depicting rape, sex, inconsensual sex, consensual sex, sexual assault. Like I want those to exist because those exist in real life. And I think that this is fair to see because this is how some people actually have sex, and they probably are having sex like this and not realizing that it's like not the best way to have sex sort of thing. And I think it's the way you said it too. It's so long that it's making a joke out of it. That's the part where I'm like, but it's not a joke. So this can have happen in a comedy. We can have this in a comedy, but if it was slightly shorter, I feel like it wouldn't feel like a joke. It would be like, oof, this is like something she does as well, because as we saw, we're showing all her flaws. This is one of her flaws. We're going to talk about this later. And look at how she's like fucking like a man.
I think that's also one of her issues is that she's having sex like a man, right? Like she's getting laid. She's getting laid tonight with Will. You know what I mean? Like the way that the guys at the board meeting were talking about that girl.
Oh yeah, well, I know that this was very specific to the fact that it was a bachelorette party, but just in general, I loved seeing women at this age go out and party the way they did. I feel like we don't get those scenes often enough in movies.
I love that too. I love that instead of a stripper, they had a psychic. I just wanted to bring up the psychic. I loved her. She was so much fun. Did you see the credits?
Yeah, that was really fun.
The scene of the credits where she's like, "There's something different about you," and I feel like you have so many talents, and you women's empowerment, and like at the same time as the white lady who's like a Christian. No, I loved it. Love
So good. Yeah, it's really they have a lot of fun with her scene too and the tea and everything. And that was really funny. She's like, I drank all the rest of the tea and I felt nothing. I have just honestly the rest is just a few quotes that I thought like it's like bits of quotes, but I thought they were good. I didn't write down who said them, but one was like men and women want the same thing to be with someone they trust who cares about them.
you as well.
I was well. I really liked that one. You got you and no one else. And I feel like that was like the most clear way of being like pointing out how selfish she was. I don't know if it was one of the partners. I don't know if it was like Schmidt or something, but
I think it might have been Schmidt.
yeah. And the last one is my self-worth is not going to come from a man's approval. And I really liked that one as well.
And that was when she was leaving.
Yeah.
Me too. I really liked that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think overall they have a lot of fun.
I was like hysterically laughing the entire time. I loved everyone. Oh, I liked the spectacle of like her ruining the wedding. And I like there's always got to be the beat where you ruin all your relationships. She ruined Will. She ruined her relationship with her assistant, and then she ruined her friends' relationships. But I really liked the fact that like she ruined it in such a big, 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 big way. Um, and then she wakes up from the concussion again, and there's no one there.
I'm gonna talk about because we didn't mention it. I love that we have Emmett from Twilight. I don't know the actor's name. He looks so hot blonde, and what was that?
Helen Lutz.
There we go. That name. I
When,
love.
when she goes into the apartment and she's like, "Oh, you're into that African freaky shit."
But I was like, literally, when she reads this stuff, I was like, that's what I'd be doing. Like, I love that she just went for it. So personally, I don't think I would have changed anything in terms of this. I don't. There's nothing that I can think of in that like this is what I would have changed sort of thing.
Same, to be honest. I agree with you in that regard too. Like I would have just, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, what would you rate it?
Um, 8, 9, something like that.
I give it an 8.5. I give it an 8.5. But it was really dope. It was really dope. It was fun. And I would definitely watch it again with people. I would definitely have a good time. Like it's definitely one of those movies that you can get up and go get a drink and come back, but it's like you don't want to do that too frequently because you don't want to miss it.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so our next movie is going to be Malcolm and Marie on Netflix. Ah! I'm excited.
Me too. And this is a blind pick for both of us, obviously, because it's dropping this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment below what you thought, any favorite characters, favorite quotes, cameos that we might have missed, anything like that. And be sure to let us know if there's any final movie suggestion you have for us, because we do have a movie in mind for the last week, but if there's any that you really want to see for this month, let us know. And if you want to start helping us out with Pride Month, that'd be great too. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, because I have movies I want to do for Pride Month. Like I have a couple that are like genuinely like I have a whole lineup in my brain, but I also want to do things that aren't so freaking mainstream. So if you have anything that's like, hey, this movie doesn't get enough love, please, please. Okay. So as always, my name is Sam.
On Belize,
This has been Heartbreaker Films.
see you next week.